Who the Wild Things Are with Ryan McGuire.
You gotta listen to your body.
Oh my God, maybe, I could get out there, I could do this.
Let's take a ride, find your wild side, real stories, see with your own eyes.
It's so beautiful.
I'm gonna have the best time out here.
I was in tears, I was just like, that's the best, man.
Welcome back to Who the Wild Things Are. My name is Ryan McGuire, and I'm here to bring you conversations with the most wild folks on the planet. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you enjoyed the episode, share it with a friend. Appreciate you guys. Let's get it going. Well, Justin, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth noting to everyone that they owe you a nod of gratitude for the fact that you biked here from Boulder.
Oh, my pleasure.
You are the first guest to do so.
I really okay. Well, I'm esteemed to have that honor to have done that. It gets me up in the morning,
Yeah.
So I've had coffee, a bike ride, and now more coffee.
Right on.
I'm jazzed. I'm ready
to rock.
I'm ready to eat this little podcast alive.
Sweet. So if someone maybe hadn't heard of, all the crazy adventures you've been on, how would you describe kind of your approach to life in just a couple words?
Oh my God, a couple words is hard, but probably a creative pursuit of self-powered adventures.
Ooh.
How about that?
Well, you fucking nailed that,
it's not
dude.
too
That
bad.
was really good.
Been workshopping that.
Have you been working on that?
Been in a lot of elevators.
That's like on your headline of your website. That's
Right,
really
something
good.
like that.
So I think the first time I found out about you, there's a trail down in Arizona and New Mexico. It's called the Grand Enchantment Trail. And I was down there with a buddy of mine, Chris, and he was saying, hey, there's this guy, I think you should have him on your podcast. And I was like, huh, okay. So then I looked into you and I saw all of the long ranger adventures, all like the crazy stuff you've been doing. And
nice.
I thought it was super inspiring.
That's so funny. I hear that story like, yo, there's this guy. You got to look him up. Like I hear that all the time. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's always this guy out there. He does these things. You don't want to do them, but you want to check it out. And I was like, whoa. And that's also funny because the last time I was in Arizona, I was trying to do the Arizona Trail Race.
Okay.
So you start in the border of Mexico and Mexico and Arizona. You go north on the Arizona Trail.
Mm-hmm.
You cross over the Grand Canyon with the bike on your back.
Okay.
Until you get to the border of Utah.
Cool.
And I was jazzed to do it. And it was like, fell on my birthday, the start day. And I was like, this is a sign. This is going to be awesome. I can't wait to do that. I made it about like 12 hours before I was like totally incapacitated on the side of the trail, like shivering. I couldn't get any food down either direction. And I had to bail.
Sometimes it goes that way.
Yeah, I was trying to like thumb back to Tucson to get a car rental, and like a border patrol picked me up.
There you go.
Put 3 liters of like fluid in me, and he's like, okay, you gotta keep riding. I was like, God damn it.
Well,
can't just give me a ride.
I feel like that's pretty much on brand for kind of the stuff that you've been doing.
Oh, sure, I thought so.
Yeah,
I thought so. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how this started. How did you get into long range adventures and creating kind of your own endurance events?
Sure. I got into bikes and working out, honestly, because I got beat up at a nightclub. And I was just this 150-pound scraggly guy, and I was just making out with a beautiful girlfriend of mine, and this guy wanted my sofa, the seat the couch I was on,
okay.
and I was like, I told him to pound sand, and he just pounded me.
Oh my gosh!
And we both got kicked out, whatever. And the next day, I swear to you, I went half a mile away. There was a boxing gym, a city boxing gym, and I was like, I would like a yearly membership. Wow. It was $225, and I just started working out every day there. And then I got sometime in like kind of the same time span, I got into riding bikes.
Okay.
Just bought a bike for $15 at a thrift store, and I realized I love riding bikes, so I just ride bikes all the time. And again, around that same time, I gave up my car. It just wasn't serving me. Like, it was a car I bought for like $800, and it just kept breaking down.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm not going to buy a car again until like I can afford one, and a nice one, and it doesn't cost me more than it's worth. So, and that was between 15 and 20 years ago.
And that was the last time you had a car.
Yeah.
That's so impressive.
And within a year, I had ridden my bike across the country for the first time of 3. I was like, I would do like these things where I'd like go work out at the gym. And I remember one time I did like set up pull-ups with like 45 pound plate on me. And the next day I woke up and did like a 300K ride. Just out of control. Like I didn't know I had any athleticism in me. I just thought of myself as like a scraggly kind of weirdo artsy kid. So it was kind of funny to like blossom and bloom as an adult and just have all these latent talents.
You kind of stumbled into it.
I kind of stumbled into it kind of later in my life. I did track and field in high school for a couple weeks, and then I would like bail. I was at the football team for a couple weeks, and like, look, I didn't even know how to play football. I kind of just did it because my father played football, and I felt that it was expected of me, even though there was no pressure from my father. But I was looking for a path. And I was like, well, he played football. I should play football. But it didn't fit. Yeah. Like I was a skateboarder in high school. I was way more into my kickflips than my touchdowns. Yeah. To this day, I don't know how to play football. Like I know there's 4 downs and you try to get the ball at the other side. But other than that, whatever they're doing.
Well, I bet there's a lot of football players that don't know how to bike all the 14ers.
Sure. Right. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah. There's something special you have that I think a lot of people can't even fathom in the same regard that you may not fathom.
So since getting rid of my car, going cycling full time, like kind of becoming like an all around kind of athletic kind of person, I've toured Europe for a couple months. I did New Zealand for a couple months where I would stop and go on camping trips. I did something called the Tour Divide, which is a bike race from Canada to Mexico through the Rocky Mountains twice.
250,000 feet of vertical gain.
Yeah, something like that. 2,700 miles. You go over the Continental Divide like 34
Super
times.
Casual.
Super cash.
Super cash. Just super chill.
So it's basically you do like a century every day for a month or something like that. And I did the second time I did on a single speed.
Whoa.
Which I really adored. It's just so
simple. How long
did that take? 23 days.
So describe, I guess, real quick, what the difference between single speed riding is for somebody versus like the bike you rode in on.
Oh, sure. So the bike I rode in on has 10 or 11 gears. I'm not quite sure myself. And if the road is too steep or I'm trying too hard, I can shift into an easier gear, and I might go a little slower, but it's just easier on my legs. So you can ultimately go a lot farther, or at least use less energy. With a single speed, you have 1 gear, and 80% of the time you're in the wrong gear. And you just have to compensate. But it's very simple, like things don't break down as much. It's less about your mechanics, what kind of gear you have, and more about your metal, what you're going to deal with. You have to be a little creative on like, how am I going to get up this hill? Am I going to like weave like back and forth on the road, paperboying it, or am I going to walk, or am I just going to like grit it out and like push? Yeah. So I really love it. It's again, it engages my brain a lot more than just like letting the gears do the work. So
what do you think, like, what was that feeling when you discovered the love of bike riding? What was the feeling that made you love it so much?
Oh, it's all those like cliche things, like it feels like flying, you feel free. There's some scientific thing about it where like the idea of seeing the horizon slowly, becoming you is very satisfying to the brain. It kind of calms you down.
I've heard also like that there's a hormonal reaction when there's wind on your face.
Oh, okay.
So like, going downhill on a bike or running fast or anything like that kind of
also,
makes you happy.
In my misspent youth, I was also kind of like I took a lot of risks. So going, barreling down a hill at Mach 5 on like a skinny, tired bike. I was into fixed gear bikes back in the day too. So like not being able to even coast, so it was a single speed bike, but you couldn't stop pedaling. That was also really fun. So.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, and I used to join the bike messengers and their alley cat races. So we do these like underground races through the city and use things as checkpoints. Like one time it was like thrift stores. So you go to the thrift store and you pick out something and put in your messenger bag and go to the next thrift store.
That's awesome.
I love that. But you're dodging traffic, so it's extremely dangerous.
But there's something fun about biking in the city. We were talking about this the other day, like that high energy bike through a city where you've kind of got to be super present and like watch out for car doors opening, watch out for random people running across the street, homeless guys yelling at you. You know, it's just like all those crazy things going on.
Yeah, there is a lot of sensory input that you have to filter, and somewhat hypervigilance so you don't like get doored or get run over. But I've never had an accident in the city.
It's amazing.
It's so crazy. Yeah, knock wood for sure. N of 1, of course.
So after you've kind of found this love, there's seemingly a shift to heading out west and taking on more of like the wilderness biking and wilderness exploration.
Yeah, again, it's like multi-pronged where I think honestly I started running or just getting off the bike because I hurt my hand or something. Like I sprained my thumb or my wrist or something. And I was getting ready for another race called the Colorado Trail Race, where you go from Denver to Rango on a bike on the Colorado Trail. You know, it's another underground race. So just like Alley Cat, but just a completely, it's just way bigger because it takes multi-days instead of like an hour. But same idea where you just like show up and say, I'm going to ride it. I'll play by the rules and you do it. But I sprained my wrist or whatever, and I couldn't ride my bike because like mountain bikes, you need a lot of control. So I just started trail running, and like I realized that this is also really fun. Like I was really good at going up fast because my cycling legs, pedaling and kind of power hiking, very similar motions.
Sure.
And then going down just felt like I was in slow motion because it felt like mountain biking, except like you're going like a quarter of the speed or less. I was like, oh, this is I already know how to do this.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. So I would look out west and be like, so where can I go? Where can I ride my bike and leave it? And like, what trail? Are there trails to the west? I don't know. I was so naive. Like I had no idea what was out in Colorado. Like I traveled to New Zealand to be like, that's where there's mountains to check out. That's where there's backpacking. Like having no idea there was like this whole world to the west. If you can believe that. I had no idea.
Yeah, and I think you don't realize how big, especially the Colorado Trail does a great job of painting it, but like how vast the wilderness out here is. Right. You can talk about it all you want, but until you see it with your own eyes and how far the horizon goes, it's hard to really understand the scale. Yeah,
that's a really great point. It's a great survey of the mountains of Colorado because you just keep going through them. You're like, okay. And like on a bike, you're going like a different mountain range every day. Mm-hmm. You're like, okay, that's the front. There's the Mosquitoes. Now it's really crazy. And then you get to the San Juans, and that totally blows you away if you haven't ever been there.
Yeah, it's an incredible mountain range.
Yeah, this is next level. Yeah. This is totally next level. So, so I just decided to start riding my bike to trailheads and climbing mountains. Like again, not knowing what I was doing. Like the first trip I took was just to Mount Elbert, and Mount Elbert is the highest mountain in Colorado, so it's an obvious choice, right?
Sure.
But I didn't know a really great route to take. Like I was on the highway a bunch of times. It took me like 2.5 days to get to the mountain. I didn't know how to camp. Like I just didn't know how to do these things. Like I was scared my bike was going to get stolen when I was on the mountain, so I hid it like underneath a bunch of branches. And then I did the hike, and that was really fun. And like like it's just like any other hike to a mountain. You're like the top, the summit, you get those feelings, those views you get to look at. You're like, these are good sensations, Yeah. And something happened. I remember like hiking down, I hurt my knee. It was like the first time I ever hurt myself. And I was like, it sustained the entire day until the next day. And like, it was like blowing up and swelling. I was like, I did something really bad. And I was out. It took me out for like a year.
No way.
Until I went to a physical therapist. I was like, what happens every time I ride my bike now? It hurts. She's like, it's an IT band. It's tight. You do some monster walks and like, get on this boozoo ball and you're fine. I was like, really? Yeah. Within 6 weeks, I was fine.
Oh my gosh.
I would go to the PT and I tell her, I was like, I just got back from Lookout Mountain. I rode my bike the 30 miles up the mountain and back. She's like, you did that? I'm like, oh yeah. She's like, you don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here, you kid. So, yeah.
That's crazy that you kind of ran into that, and then you had this massive obstacle, and then to pursue maybe the hardest bike challenge in Colorado
Right.
immediately after is kind of
doo-doo-doo.
sounds a little bit psycho.
It's kind of funny, like if you don't know the odds, it's almost like the challenge gets significantly easier.
That's a good point. So tell people a little bit about the biking the 14ers and kind of what your decision looked like to pursue such a massive event.
So like I had proven through the years, I'm like, all right, I've crossed the country on a bicycle 3 times, twice on a mountain bike and twice racing. Like I can ride my bike to a 14er and hike it. I'm like, how many 14er are there? Like I had no idea what was out there. I was like, oh, there's like 58 of them. All right. Like obviously if I can ride my bike to one of them, I can ride my bike to 58 of them.
Sure.
And I just looked at a map and I was like, well, what's that route look like? Is it interesting to ride a bike? Like, is it, if the mountains weren't there, would it be a worthwhile mountain bike route? And I just started stitching the lines together and developing. I was like, there is, yeah, And I was like, well, I guess 2014 is the year I'm going to do it.
Had somebody done it at this point?
There was a couple. There's a couple throughout the years. Like the first mention was like in 1987 or 80, 85, 87, around that area. It was Pete and Glenn Dunmeyer. They're kind of well-known mountaineers.
Yeah.
And they just did it in 90 days.
Cool.
And it's kind of the same story. Like they had like 80s era mountain bikes. So pretty primitive in today's standards.
Sure.
And they're just like, screw it, let's do it. Like, let's see what happens. And they had this amazing adventure. The only documentation I've ever read about it is like a 2-page story in the Aspen Times, and I have like a Xerox copy that's been scanned. And there's just this picture of one of them just like on a summit, like jumping and looking all goofy. And another picture of them like on a really high 13,000 foot mountain pass, like just holding on to the sign on his bicycle. He rode his bicycle up. He's like, this is freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that trip, but I want to do it myself. And I looked up, I was getting to fastest known times at the time too. So I'm like, how fast can you do this? Because like 9 days is the entire summer. I'm like, can you go faster? Sure. Like I'm trying to get some bearing on like how to do this and how long it's going to take. There's a guy in like 1997 that did it in 37 days. Okay. And mostly self-supported as we think of it now, like you do everything yourself. If you need supplies like food, you go to the grocery store. It's self-supported. So I was like, okay, 37 days. I'm going to try to be 37 days. Again, I had done like 9 of these 14ers. So I still was talking out of my butt. I had no idea what I was getting into. But I was like, all right, I'll try to beat that guy's time. Having no idea. And it was like the easier 14ers, like the front range and the saw watch, these big talus heaps. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's have a grand adventure. So I moved to Boulder and just like lived like a little monk. I lived in the mudroom of a big house, totally under the radar. Like occupancy levels were like, being broken. Sure. Yeah, I was like paying like $250 a month for like a 6x6 room. Yeah, true. And every once in a while, dirtbag style. True dirtbag style. Yeah. Sometimes like people would open the door outside. It was literally the front door, and I'd be like, "Oh, hi, this is my room. Go around the side where the chickens are." And got a gym membership for a climbing gym, and just every day like rode my bike, ran, or went to the climbing gym and just like got into shape. And while doing that, developed the route. Figure out how to do it in like the best, the most optimized way that would be fun and safe on a mountain bike. And then just read like Jerry Roach's 14 Herbs book, being like, okay, where are these mountains? What are they called? How hard are they? What do I need to know? Just get as ready as possible, but still mostly on-siting the entire route myself.
Were you following a training plan, or were you more just kind of intuitive when you were getting ready for that?
I'm mostly an intuitive person, but I did buy like Steve House's and Scott Johnson's, training for the new alpinism, which is more geared for climbers that want to become aerobic athletes rather than what I think I was. Is like I knew how to do long distance things, and I just needed to figure out how to climb.
Just that like little bit of mountaineering experience that it takes to get the more technical 14ers done.
But it was kind of get that. It's more like confidence that I'm not going to fall, because there's like some semi-technical ones, but they're not super hard.
Sure.
But, like what I really wanted to, my goal was to be confident at the money pitches while completely sleep deprived and extremely exhausted.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I want to be like automatic, be able to do it instead of, being like, I am too scared and I'm too tired. I'm going to fall because I'm just falling apart kind of thing.
And you're also solo, right? So it's like, it's one thing to do these if you've got some support there and you're tired and somebody else can stop you from making a bad decision.
Right,
but you're just
right.
bouncing all these ideas
Right.
between your own ears.
Right. So yeah, it's something that you kind of like, you factor in, like you're going to take wrong turns, you're going to make mistakes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like third day of my whole trip, like I was going to turn right on a road and the road didn't exist. And I was like,
That's how it goes.
I guess we're going a different way. Oh, there's another mountain I forgot. There's another mountain I got to do. Okay. Got to do that now too. Like, yeah, every day on that trip, it was like every day, every single day was something I didn't expect happen. And it was like all time, I was like, that was crazy. I wonder what's going to happen tomorrow.
What was the lowest point when you think about that trip? What sticks out to you?
Lowest point.
Hold this guy just a little bit more out in front of you.
Sure.
There you go. You can move it up, down, sideways, wherever you need.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Lowest point. There was a lot of break-ins with animals. Like there was a bear that on Lake Como Road that was right outside my tarp. So I'm not even in a tent.
Right.
I basically, instead of a tent, I brought a tent footprint.
Okay.
Just to like hide underneath if it started raining. And I could hear him like rasping on the tarp. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? Because like it's a bear. I'm like, I don't want to like get eaten by this dumb thing, or like or even just get injured by this thing. So it was kind of funny. The next day I did like 3 pretty hard mountains, and I came back to my campsite like totally ravaged. He ate all my food.
Oh no.
He had all my jerky, all my trail mix.
Oh.
And I remember like being like super hungry. He even had like a 5-hour energy. I couldn't believe it. I was like, freaking bear.
It's like that Cocaine Bear movie.
Right.
Except
It's my own personal cocaine bear. So I had like this terrible, this infamous road called Lake Como Road. I had to ride down, and it's like just filled with baby heads, like these, these rocks the size of your fist.
Is this in Como, Colorado?
It's outside of Blanca, Colorado, or Alamosa, Colorado.
Okay, yeah. So down south. Kind of.
Yeah, in the Sangres. Like, I had to go down this road, which was like a feat in of itself. Like if you could drive up the road, like you get a gold star.
Yeah.
Like to ride down it, I was like, I don't know anyone who's ridden a bike on this road for good reason. So I get there, I get to the highway, I like ride 10 more miles, and I'm just like dying of hunger and thirst. And like for some reason, I go to the one restaurant that just like wants to ignore me. They wouldn't serve me.
What?
The waitress just was ignoring me.
This is in Alamosa?
This was like in Blanca, Colorado or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know what's going on because I'm crazy. Like I'm dehydrated. I've just had this crazy adventure on these 3 mountains. I did one of the great traverses between Little Bear and Blanca. And I was like, I just need to eat. So I ride 10 more miles to a different town, and I go to Fort Garland, and there's a pizza place. I'm like, good, all you can eat pizza, perfect. And like they couldn't be friendlier to me. They're like, who are you? Talk to us. You look amazing. They're like, we're doing a fundraiser for the Boy Scouts. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'd totally give you money, but I don't have cash. And this guy like slipped me a 20. He's like, get some cookies from them. And I was like, I love Fort Garland. This is the funnest place in the world, So it was kind of like this low, and then it became high again. So that was kind of what happened through the entire trip. I could figure out one of those for every single day.
Yeah. And it's incredible. Like, when you run into those people, I mean, Fort Garland, they probably see it because it's the southern terminus of the Sangres, but the people that you meet that are willing to help out, it's always an incredible moment, when you see somebody that's just willing to go out of their way for you.
Yeah, it's country, man. It's country. I mean, like Fort Garland's like five houses, and like a liquor store. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun down there. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for someone who doesn't have a car to get down there. So it's like a new site, even though I'm still in Colorado.
Sure. Yeah,
it was really fun.
It's a cool area. And then, so after you complete the 14ers.
Yeah. So I did it. I did in like 34 days, and I was really excited.
It was 34.
Yeah,
wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
And I'm curious, is that still the FKT for the bike?
Kind of no. I think Joe Grant has done in 32 days or something. So of course I want to answer the call to do it even faster because like now I've done it. And like, I don't have to onside everything. I'm like, well, and it's my mind just keeps thinking, like, yeah, that one day when I made that left, I should have made that right.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it would take off like 50 miles, and like 50 miles is like half a day of riding. I'm like, well, there's a half a day there. I can go faster. And you just kind of keep thinking those ideas, and the gears keep turning. You're like, oh man, I got to do this again.
Better fueling.
I'm more mature, bike gets dialed in. Like a lot of little marginal gains can, And I think Joe, when he did it, he kind of unsighted it too. He's like, I want a grand adventure. He was kind of thinking of doing it like independent of me, and I just kind of like did it before him, whatever. But it's just kind of funny. Like we live 5 miles away.
That's amazing. You guys live near each other.
Yeah,
see each other on the street.
Yeah, like he's picking up some ibuprofen. Hey Joe.
Yeah, it seems like Boulder's kind of a mecca for folks that like to do this sort of thing.
Oh, well, I moved there because I'm like, this is where I want to be. I mean, this is where all those three threads converge, right? The cycling, the running, and the climbing.
Yeah.
All three types of people come together. So if I'm all three types of people, it seems pretty obvious to me.
Which one would you say that you're most proficient in if you had to label yourself one thing?
Yeah, that's hard for me to do. It's so weird because I have roots in all three.
Mm-hmm.
My first memory as a kid was going to see my father do a 24-hour race. And at the time, like, he wasn't trail running. He was like racing on like the quarter-mile oval at a high school.
That's crazy.
And like they're just, every 6 miles they change direction, and some guy at the finish line would just keep count of how many laps you did. That was my first memory. So my father was a marathoner, and I guess an ultra marathoner you call him today.
Yeah.
I started climbing when I was in 6th grade.
Wow, that's early.
Yeah. Social services, the department were a bunch of climbers. So they would have clubs for the kids to take them climbing indoors and out. And so I just started climbing there. And I didn't have a car in high school either, so I just rode my bike. And I was the last kid of 4, so my garage was filled with mostly broken bikes. And I would just kind of like cobble them together and ride them until they broke again and just like discard them.
And that's important too. I guess folks, maybe don't factor that in, but your ability to, tinker and jerry-rig bicycles on a trip like that.
Yeah,
there's so
right.
much that goes wrong.
There's certainly there's the the traveling mechanic for sure. Like, how is this going to work? Like, my tools are like, a pair of pliers and a tree branch. Like, how am I getting back home?
Right.
Right.
So there's a whole nother skill set there that it seems you got exposed to earlier than most.
I guess so. I remember one time, I swear to you, I rode like 10 miles on my rim. Like the tire had gone. And
no.
And I just remember being like, it's casual. I'll just ride on the rim. It's fine. It's
all good.
And my parents are like, what did you do? Like, first off, whose bike is this? It's like, I thought it was ours. It was in the garage. That would happen all the time. Yeah.
And now you're out here doing some of the biggest adventures that you can think of.
Yeah, and having fun. Like, it's funny that now I have like skills and confidence, and it's, I don't know, I'm just getting old and slow.
What is your longest bike? Was it the 100 Peaks, or what was the one that took the longest?
That's probably one of them. Like, so yeah, like how I have a problem. I have a problem with my life where I kind of get this feeling of like, I think of myself, I go, is that all there is to, and then I think of the thing I just did, so I was like, is that all there is to riding your bike to all the 14ers? like just did this crazy like once in a lifetime trip, and I was just like, oh, that's cool, that's totally cash, what's next? And I was like, it's gotta be something bigger and better. So yeah, I looked at the map again. I'm like, wow, there's this list called the Centennials, which is the 100 highest peaks in Colorado. So around twice as many peaks. And I'm like, what's that route look like? And like, what do those mountains look like, And like, long story short, they're a little bit more desolate, harder, farther away from a road. They're a little harder, they're a little harder grade-wise, a little bit more scramble, like less trails.
More technical?
More technical.
Yeah.
And there's more of them. And I was like,
because
cool.
People want to go to the 14ers.
Right. If it's, for some reason, that's the magic number.
If it's a 13er, then there's not as well path carved.
Right. And there's some really beautiful Centennials out there. Like Vestal Peak is one of my favorites.
I got to write that down. How do you spell it?
Vestal.
Vestal.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
It has this this route called Wham Ridge, and it looks like if we have the Flatirons in Boulder, these beautiful slabs with their east faces. Vestal Peak and Wham Ridge are like 4 14ers put like one on top of each other. It's insane. It looks like the biggest skateboard ramp in the world. You're like, whoa. So the farther you go up it, you climb up, the steeper it gets.
Where is it? Like what part of Colorado?
It's between Silverton and Durango.
Okay, so it's
the Weminiche.
Cool.
Weminiche. So it's like a 2-day hike to get there. So it's kind of a committing thing. But yeah.
It makes it all that much more adventurous.
Yeah. So yeah, like a couple years later, in 2017, I embarked on the tour of the highest 100. And this is like one of these things where like one guy did it in the history of Colorado mountaineering, and he wasn't self-supported like I was. He had he had like his friends. He did it like in a very fun and entertaining way with his friends, and had this grand adventure he was sharing at the time. His name is Rob Barlow, so I want to give him props for having done it first.
Shout out to Rob.
Shout out to Rob, man.
Savage.
That's a good idea.
You kind of come up with this idea. How long did it take you? What was the gap between those two expeditions?
So yeah, 14er tour was 2014.
Okay.
And the tour of the highest 100 was 2017.
Okay.
So 3 years of like wondering what's next and like pulling the trigger, like since I leave from my house and I finish, the finish line is my house too. There's no ticket you gotta buy. There's no investment.
Yeah.
I could use the same bike, like.
So it's hard to get yourself, there's no ticket to buy, so you have no commitment to start on a certain date.
Right.
It's all self-influenced.
Right. And I had no sponsors to like appease, so you really have to like put it out there.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this.
How do you go about funding something like that?
Mostly it's self-funded. So like Tour 14 or like no one knew who I was. Like a couple people knew me from my Tour Divide antics. But I didn't have like a bike sponsor.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a running sponsor because no one knew. I hadn't done a trail race.
Sure.
So I just saved up, honestly. I sponsored myself is basically what happened. Yeah.
Self-sponsored, self-supported.
Yeah, that's right. And like, like when you do things by self-powered, like what's the most expensive thing of the trip by far?
The nutrition.
Food.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like $50 a day to feed yourself. It's insane.
It's a ridiculous amount of food. Especially, you got to be going through 8,000 calories a day.
I didn't keep track except with the credit card bill.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a ton. It's a lot, whatever it is.
Yeah. So I'd like just put everything on the credit card and pay it off like through the rest of the year.
There you go.
I'm not saying this is smart, but I'm saying this is what I did.
Financial advice from Long Ranger.
Right. I went to art school, not business school. So, and afterwards, like I would, I'd raise a lot of eyebrows and, slowly get more sponsorships. Like even Tour 14, I didn't have even a shoe sponsorship, but by Tour of the Highest 100, I had a very friendly year in like La Sportiva, and they were able to help me out with shoes for that because I was like going through shoes like nobody's business.
So fast.
And it was like a 2-month trip. So
do you clip in or are you?
I would have like separate bike shoes.
Okay, so you had your clip-ins and then you're hiking, and La Sportiva is probably giving you the hiking kind of shoes.
Yeah. I fell in love with this one shoe brand, the Mutant, and I think I used like 5 or 6 of them for the 2-month trip. So
yeah,
it worked so well. I was like, I love this thing. So
I can't imagine that. It seems like the clip-ins would definitely be worth it, although it is definitely extra weight, right? Because you've got
I had some pretty high-end clipless shoes. It's more like it's what I was familiar with. It's what I knew that worked. I used the same or similar shoes for like 2 of the Tour Divides, and like if my feet were cool using them for like a 2,700 mile mountain bike race, they'll be good for the 1,600 miles I had to do for both those trips. So.
When you say sponsor, is that somebody that's also providing like cash to pay for food, or are they mostly just giving you gear, or is there kind of both?
It's mostly in-kind gear.
kind of gear.
Like if I would have played it smart, I would call like Justin's peanut butter and be like, Justin, is this Justin?
Are you Justin?
This is Justin. I want to be your Justin.
Yeah.
And I need some peanut butter. I remember when I did the Colorado Trail Race, I did the whole first day on nothing but like one jar of like their hazelnut.
Dude, what a missed opportunity. You could have been the Justin.
I know, like the pitch deck writes itself, doesn't
yeah,
it?
it's great.
I'm like a little better at making those things now. So, Tour 14er, man, half my gear was like thrifted, honestly. Like I bought used like running shorts and stuff.
My favorite running shorts I've ever have are thrifted shorts I got before a 14-day run.
Right.
And they have fire holes in them from sitting around the fire.
Right.
And for some reason, I've never found better running shorts than those.
Absolutely. Yeah. You make do, you make it happen. And,
yeah.
I was perfectly, it didn't look as stylish as they could have, but like it totally was good. My bike was just a steel mountain bike. It didn't even have suspension.
Yeah.
So relatively cheap for what it was.
It was like a hardtail?
Totally hardtail and just a regular fork, no suspension at all.
Oh, no suspension at all.
Nope.
Did you find it was hard to get like to and from the trailheads? Like, kind of those rocky fire roads that lead up to trailheads, were those tough?
No.
They were fine.
The Tour Divide had in the Colorado Trail Race and I guess the Arizona Trail Race, they got me prepared to like be able to handle a bike,
sure.
Loaded down. So no, I was like, what I was thinking doing this, I'm like, why do people have like serious 4-wheel drive vehicles just for like getting to 14er trailheads? I'm like, you don't have to do that. I'm like, if it was my world and I was king, I'm like, what you need is 4 miles or like where the 4-wheel drive starts, just like have a parking lot and like you could just unload your mountain bike and everyone can mountain bike the 4 miles. They don't have to go the 400.
Sure.
I'm like, yeah, that's all you need.
That's a good point. You could definitely, we can definitely propose this. We can try and write a new bill.
I know. Like you think you have a lot of time to think. So I'm like, I remember I was like one day I was like, I got to start my own nonprofit where all we do is provide bike lockup areas for 14er trailheads, and like that would help people.
That'd be sick.
Yeah. I remember I was thinking out loud on a summit and this guy just goes to me, like hasn't talked to me, doesn't know who he is. He just goes, "That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard," and like totally like harshed my mellow. I was like,
dang.
What do you mean?
I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, that was a great idea.
Screw that guy. That's a great segue, which is a question I had about this entire expedition and a lot of yours being alone.
Yeah.
What did that do to your mind, spending that much time alone? Was there any part of you that thought, I wish I had a partner or anything like that?
Okay, I'm gonna sound like a sociopath, but not really. And it's one of these things I had been thinking about, like, why is it that I like to spend so much time alone, or why is it that I feel so comfortable being alone? And it's really funny because like you dive into some kind of deep stuff, but like it's because I was left alone as a child, for better or worse, and it just became what was comfortable for me to be around, like just being alone. And it kind of sucks where like I think my family or my parents just kind of like gave up being parents, and they were just
because you were the youngest. Is that?
I was the youngest, and like I didn't grow up like in a well-to-do household, and it wasn't really obvious to me like how like low rent we were. Like it was kind of like hidden, or we kind of like were in denial because I was raised in this beautiful, wonderful colonial town in Connecticut. It was very upper middle class, but like we were not. My mother didn't work. She was my father was a self-employed social worker. So like we just kind of made do, and I had a wonderful childhood experience, but I also had some like weird, not so great childhood experience. But there was a lot of like if I had a problem, they would definitely be like, "You got to just figure it out. We're not here for that." And I was like, "What do you mean? Like you're my parents. Like you have to provide. I'm just a little kid." So it kind of like it just kind of like snowballed into this like kind of being a loner as like the way I could like survive, like a survival skill.
It seems so paradoxical that your dad's a self-employed social worker, but
right.
you know, it's
Right,
like,
right.
but hey, I'm over here.
Right.
You know?
It's the cobbler's son, right?
Yeah, it's such an interesting dichotomy there.
It totally is. And I'm like kind of like unfolding like why this is, and like, because it is kind of like a missing part of my life, you know. And I'm sure when you're talking to me, you're just like, this guy doesn't seem antisocial, or he's lacking social skills, or like, you know, he's obviously extremely sexy and good looking.
Yeah,
and all
great
kinds of things
looking.
like that.
That was the first thing that came to mind.
It's not like he just keeps to himself. So why does he like go on all these little like lonely adventures? But like, yeah, there's a difference between being alone and lonely.
Sure.
And I was like, I just like being alone, you know? It's like just my alone time. But I'm kind of like trying to figure out now that I'm old and wizened, like what is the balance? You know, because I don't want to spend my life alone, because that is, in fact, lonely. Mm-hmm. But how can I get my alone time without it, you know, breaching against like my social activities or like other interpersonal relationships, you know, things like that. Yeah,
it's a hard balance for sure.
Oh, totally is. And I think we all kind of grapple with it. But yeah, like being alone on these trips, like I couldn't be more comfortable. I'm just like whistling. I'm like, doo-doo-doo.
Just having a good time.
Just having a good time.
Was there a 14er that you were like, this is definitely the coolest 14er when you were, well, I guess you did all the 14ers twice because you did the top 100. Was there one that you were super stoked, like I get to go back to this 14er?
Yeah, it's like all the semi-technical ones are pretty cool, but like my favorite by far, like without question, is Long Peak. Right. So I would always make front range. Yeah. The closest one to my house too.
Yeah.
So when I designed these trips, I made Long Peak the last mountain I'd hit.
Hell yeah.
You know, as like the crown jewel of the entire project.
Sweet.
You know, so you summit that and you're like, yeah, now I can feel the feels of the weight of this entire project, kind of thing. So.
Did you, after that was over, I know for some of my, I mean, much shorter, much less intense endurance things, there's this moment after where it's not, I wouldn't call it depression, but there's definitely this moment after you're like, well, that's over. And you're kind of lost a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. You get into a rhythm and, you know, and then you stop the rhythm. So, yeah, your brain and body are kind of wondering what's going on. I remember for like the tour of the highest 100, like my housemate at the time would just laugh at me because I spend like a week on the couch, like underneath a sleeping bag, because that was where I was mentally and physically and emotionally. And she's like, you just destroyed yourself. I'm like, that's what happened. So I don't know if I had enough time to like be, you know, have those like, you know, post-adventure blues, because I had to like kind of become like functional again and go to work and like try to pay rent and stuff. So
did you take advantage of social pressure? Like, I know one of the tools we have now is sort of, you know, you come up with this idea, and like you were saying, a lot of times buying the ticket is a pressure, but another pressure point can be social pressure, where it's like, I told my 10 best friends I'm going to do this crazy thing. Now I have to do it, or I'm kind of full of shit. Yeah.
That's a great tool to use. I want to say I did it in a healthy way.
Okay.
You know, like it's almost like you always balance like your excitement for the idea with the fear of actually doing it, like starting it, you know, and it's so easy to bail on yourself. Be like, never mind, I don't really want to do it. You know, it's like that feeling you get, you're like on the cliff ready to jump into the water. And you're like, oh, this is so exciting, but like, I don't know if today, tomorrow, guys, tomorrow. And you really just have to like, you know, it's that little push, right? But it's the same little push that I feel like I have to take a run today. It's like, am I getting out the door or am I not getting out the door?
Sometimes you look at your shoes for a little bit longer.
Yeah, you're like, do I really love running that much that I want to keep on running? And like, if you say no, you're just going to hate yourself the rest of the day, because you're like, no, that's what my brain and body want. That's what I've designed my life around these hobbies. Like, are you kidding? Like, why do I still don't know why I sometimes don't want to get out the door, you know?
But everyone deals with it.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone.
And like, you have to figure out like what's going to get you across that threshold. And it's just that little push. Yeah. You know?
And it's like that thing like, oh, well, you got to listen to your body. It's like, well, a lot of times my body just says, why don't you go lay down?
Right. The body lies.
Yeah.
That is a great point where like, I think the greatest advice you get is like, just give it 5 minutes. Do it for 5 minutes. And if you don't want to do it anymore, just go back home. And like, you can at least say you tried.
Yeah.
rather than like give into like these feelings that it's almost like your brain is making those stories like, oh, you're going to get injured, or like it's not going to be a good day, or whatever. There's a part of you that just wants to kind of be lazy.
Yeah.
Because like it's 2023. If you want to be lazy, you can be lazy.
Well, it's like our brains are designed for survival, not like necessarily achievement, right? They're like self-preservation.
Mm-hmm.
So self-preservation, you know, if everything is taken care of, is to stay inside, relaxed,
right?
And
yeah.
you know,
yeah, don't use that energy.
No.
Eat all the food in the fridge. That's what you want to do. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to let my dreams and my, you know, like figure out the creative path to take over and like spin this story of like, oh, you know what, today I'm gonna run up this one ridge and it's gonna look beautiful, and there's a thing I want to take a photograph of.
Yeah.
And there's that cool rock I want to check out, and like give myself reasons to get out the door, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm psyched. You know, if I do a tenth of the things I thought about, like I'll be psyched.
How do you manage that with creating content? Because I've noticed, you know, it's something I struggle with a lot, is like the balance between like a organic adventure and like documentation.
Right.
And I feel like it's something that I've seen in your profile lately, is like you've been making some really cool videos and really cool documentation.
Yeah. That's really hard to do, because you want to be authentically in the moment and feeling the feels and doing the do's. And like, you don't want to just like manufacture like this storyline, you know, even though like I know how fiction works and how to make a good story. And I also, when I was in my misspent youth, I got really into, this is also really cheesy and stuff, but I really got into like the Beat Generation and Jack Kerouac.
Yeah. And
he had the same problem where he was like, I want to be in the moment, but I also want to write about the moment.
Yeah.
You know, so he would like, he just had an insane, you know, almost photographic memory. And they would go home and just like type it out, you know, as one big draft, you know, not even using paragraph spaces or whatever. And they'd just be like, that's it. That's the story.
Yeah.
And moving on. You're like, all right. So one of the things I have to do is like be efficient. So when you're filming or something, like be able to like turn on your camera and turn it off, like film what you need to film. Just so it doesn't get in the way. Because like I'm usually on like a time limit of like I have to get to the end before I run out of food.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
I can't like haul like multiple cameras and like a bunch of batteries and stuff, or I'll just go too slow.
Right.
I won't ever make it through. And then what I feel like I've been doing is like I'll just leave the footage alone and like allow myself to have the experience, and like, you know, because like it's not just the time out there, it's the time afterwards where you're kind of processing and be like, what did this feel like to me? And I do kind of still lean on writing about it before I look at videos and photos and stuff, and be like, how did that feel? You know, what was going on inside me? Because like those are the visceral things that the reason I'm out there is to have an experience inside my head. And then how do I then share those feelings, you know?
Yeah.
Because like there's just so many times I can conquer a mountain, you know, where it's like, is that really what we're doing here? Is that really what it's all about? You know, it's like, what was it about this mountain that made me want to climb it? Or like, what really was going on in my mind, you know, that was holding me back or making me unsure? Or like, what did I see out there? What were the sights, you know?
Seems like a good practice just to write it down. Like
sure.
I'm not a writer, so it just like doesn't naturally occur to me. But like it just seems like such a good practice to go through the feelings you felt and have that to look back on.
Sure.
When you're like, oh, do I want to do the 100 highest peaks? Well, let's look at how I was feeling during those 14 peaks and have you know, some kind of written log.
Yeah, and I think like the practice of writing is sort of like a lost one. I've written my entire life, I think. Like my sister has an English degree, and for some reason I just decided I chose art instead of writing. And now I write for, you know, my job, which is really funny. Yeah, it comes around, you know, circles around. So it was always more of a natural thing to keep like even just a journal. Again, like I just got into writers like the Beat Generation and the Lost Generation, or lots of early 20th century fiction, or like the just a lot of different you know, lines of reading. And when I was like a little kid, again, I spent a lot of time alone at the library, just reading books and, you know, annoying the librarians.
I find a lot of times those like logs, you know, even if you just write a couple bullet points
Mm-hmm.
about a day, that's all you need to access the other bank of memories.
Right.
It's like you don't actually have to get all the details down because as long as you have the 5 or 6 things that happen, then you're like, oh yeah, now I remember all that. I remember when that rock tumbled down and hit my ankle, and then I cried for a little bit, and then I got back on my feet and I dusted myself off and finished it.
Absolutely. Like you can use those just as a little keyframe to remember the rest of it. Or like you can use like video clips like that too, where you like remember what it looked like, or like how did you feel, or like what was the timbre of your voice at the time? Were you scared? Were you happy? Were you worried? What was it? So
What's the best piece of advice you could give to someone if they were thinking about doing something outside their comfort zone?
Oh, that's a good one. As we were talking, it's very obvious that I went in a lot of these trips without knowing exactly what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because like I was also a Boy Scout, and their whole mantra is like be prepared. And I feel it's bad to be like, oh, just do it. Who cares what happens? You know, it'll be fun. It'll be an adventure no matter what, because like a lot of things I do, like that can be deadly.
Sure.
And I had a lot of close calls that I haven't talked about, but like I did read a book about how people go from having problems on a trip to dying on the trip, and it kind of changed the way I thought about it. Basically, the theory was like a cascading event, a cascading amount of bad decisions leads to, an accident and or death. And I was like, oh, good idea. So I when I'm fucking up, for lack of a better term, I have to like stop myself and be like, all right, things are going wrong. Let's you're on the wrong road. Yeah. Like just turn around. Deep breath. What are you doing? Like the mountain's going to be there tomorrow. Yeah. Like don't worry about it. So, and why, and figure out the why. Why are you doing the thing?
What would you say your why is? That's
a great question. It's still curiosity. It's got to be curiosity. Like I want to like, what's that going to feel like? I was at Long Peak 2 days ago, thinking like, oh, what's it going to be like on the route? There's all this snow. Can I do it? I remember how pretty it was and how fun it is. Like, let's just try it again.
What was the process like, becoming more comfortable with, shoulder season mountaineering versus most of the big trips you were doing were
summer?
During the summer.
Again, I just like I threw myself into it. I think I took like one survey course, an hour long like talk at REI about avalanche safety, and it's basically like if there's snow on the hill, it's probably dangerous. I'm like, okay, got it. like
nailed it.
Armed with that information, I'm just like ridges. I'll just do ridges. Yeah, again, I just threw myself into it. Like I the first time I did like Long Peak in the winter was like 2014. And again, I rode my bike to it. It was like a 22-hour day round trip. And it was like the first time anyone had done it in the winter, like the bike ride in the Long Peak.
Gotcha.
I was like, oh, really? Like, yeah, it was pretty hard.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, when people maybe think of it, they're just like, oh, he's just like going on a hike. But people die on Long Peak. Like it's legit.
It can be really dangerous. Like just doing the hike alone is quite a feat,
And the weather switches. In a second.
And like I read a lot, and it's not that I don't have like a voracious appetite when it comes to weather patterns or avalanche things, or I'm reading other trip reports, but there is just a lot of like now built-in experience, and like there's not much better than just having experience.
Yeah, ground truth.
2014, that's like 12, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9 years ago. That's a lot of time on mountains, Yeah. So you kind of have like a sixth sense of being like,
you got a doctorate degree now.
Right. I'm doctor of mountains.
Doctorate of biking around and climbing mountains.
Unfortunately, I'm the only practitioner.
Yeah, but there's a big business. A lot of people, I'm sure, would love to pick your brain. And
no, absolutely. I think there is something to say about like, okay, I see the things you're doing. Like I have my own goals. Like, what can I do? What can you teach me so I can achieve my own goals? Because like I don't necessarily want people to do the same thing that I do. Sure. But I want people to do their version of my thing. Yeah. Right? What is your 100 highest peaks?
Yeah. What is it?
What's your 5-year plan? What is your mountain? What can I teach you? Just keep going, And it's going to kind of be like I saw a forest and then I saw trees and I saw the forest again kind of thing, where the advice is going to be super simple, trust thyself kind of thing. So,
yeah, trust thyself and kind of, it seems like move in that direction, even if you don't have it all figured out.
Right. And find the thing that gets you stoked too. Because if you don't like doing the thing you like to do, why are you going to keep doing it?
You're not going to keep going if you're getting stormed on and you're having a terrible time.
Or if it just feels like a job, like, are you really into it anymore? Or like, are you doing it for another reason? You know? And if it is your job, then that's a different thing. Like, there's going to be Kipchoge's of the world where like running is their job.
Legit.
Although I think he's pretty psyched on running.
He seems pretty stoked. I'd be pretty stoked.
I'd be pretty stoked too if I could run that fast.
He can run as fast as I bike.
Right.
Seriously. Cool,
Without
man.
a doubt.
Well, thank you so much for joining. And real quick, just let people know sort of where they can find you. First, before we do that,
sure.
Is there any teaser to anything coming up?
A teaser? That thing's coming up? Oh my gosh.
Any big trip coming up that you want to leave in people's minds?
Oh my God, there's so many trips coming up. To pick just one. I'm working on a video of my failed Sangre trip from last year, where I got stormed off a 13,000 foot peak. And that was a really kind of a dangerous situation. I wrote about it in a story called Ceiling Zero on Thirsty Peak, but I have video of the whole thing, so I'm kind of interpreting it in a different way using the videos.
I want to do that run so bad.
Me too, yeah.
You did it, right? You've done it before.
I've done it before, south to north, and I think this year I'm going to try yet again to do it north to south.
So basically Salida to Fort Garland.
Right.
Yeah.
And I tried twice last year and I couldn't do it for various reasons.
Okay, well we're gonna have to communicate on this. I need some beta. I need some tips.
I just put the poster, the entire trail system on my wall for inspiration.
Just studying.
Get myself psyched. Yeah.
Just visualizations.
Just
all day.
instead of like just like looking at a blank wall when I'm like out of ideas of what to do, I can look at this map, be like, yeah.
It is such a gnarly route.
Rad.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let people know where to find you if they're interested in learning more.
Sure. I think like the thing to search for is just Long, L-O-N-G, Ranger, and then Justin, and you'll probably find my website, my Instagram, my Twitter, my my TikTok. We're doing the ticking and the talking now.
Nice. Is that still a thing, or did it become illegal or something?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm far too old to be on it, so
I'm out of the TikTok game. But I know it's like people were pissed about it or something.
I guess so. Yeah. It's just the youths. The youth.
Check out Long Range Justin on TikTok.
Right.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for coming.
You're
been
very
a blast,
welcome.
And I've learned a lot.
Yeah, it's always my pleasure. Of course.
We'll have to do this again after our next attempts at Sangre.
Okay, yeah. Let's do it.
All right,
Let's
man.
do it.
Thanks, guys. Stay well.